Hello again, fellow heathens. It's been a while since I've been able to upload due to my current college workload, but I figured I should probably do something special for my first Halloween here on YouTube. As you can see, I've spruced up my ambiguous purple swirl with some spooky cobwebs for the occasion, but in trying to plan some additional decorations, I found myself somewhat disappointed by the common choices for what people consider to be stereotypically scary. For example, when was the last time you found yourself personally inconvenienced by a vampire? Maybe during the Twilight craze of the early 2010s? What about a zombie? Maybe when they developed a really great yet uncharacteristic sense of dramatic tension and plot armor in The Walking Dead? When was the last time that you found yourself personally inconvenienced by, say, Peter Pan brand peanut butter? Okay, well, that one actually is pretty scary and very inconvenient. The point is, although many classic Halloween horror tropes can be frightening in concept, they never give us any real cause for concern, as they're not real and cannot directly impact us or those that we care about. However, in our world today, there are a whole lot of things that should concern us much more than anything that we're told is supposed to be conventionally scary. So it is for this reason that on this most spooky of days, I'm leaving all the fake shit to the wayside and I'll be decorating my swirly abode with only the truly frightening things that actually affect real people on a daily basis. So without further ado, I present some things that we absolutely must keep in mind and continue to fight against moving forward, especially going into the oncoming holiday season where it can sometimes be far too easy to pacify ourselves with good holiday vibes or censor ourselves in the things that really matter around family. As he just so happens to be a sizable contributing factor to many of the other things found on this list, it seems only fair that we begin with the man who constantly acts and is sometimes colored like the Grand Canyon, standing directly between two seemingly diametrically opposed halves of the United States population, President Donald Trump. I refer to him in this way here mainly because no matter how aware I am that he is the acting commander-in-chief of the country in which I live, it still doesn't feel right coming out of my mouth even 2 years into his first, and hopefully only term. While there are many things that happen due to his actions, for now I'll simply focus on why President Donald Trump himself is still worth being afraid of, both for the direct actions that he takes as well as all of the things that he and his presidency represent. Donald Trump has proven time and time again during his time in office that he is inconsistent, easily manipulated, highly impulsive, and blatantly inaccurate regarding even the least important topics. Whether he's having trouble deciding whether he ought to be ridiculing or falling in love with Kim Jong-un, making completely inconsistent statements on the same issues simply based on who he last talked to before giving said statements, attempting to establish new national policy over Twitter, or even blatantly lying about something as inconsequential as being invited onto the Last Week Tonight show, Donald Trump proves almost daily in some way that he is not fit to lead the United States, especially with the current global and national climate, where the divides between different groups have grown considerably deeper and wider. So with all that, we will absolutely be adding President Donald Trump to our spooky Halloween decorations. Next, we'll add one of the scariest problems facing the entire world right now: climate change. We have pumped so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere over the past 200 years that we have fundamentally altered its composition to a degree that we can no longer fix without having to first face the now inevitable consequences that are already being set in motion. The global sea level is projected by 2100 to rise no less than 8 inches and possibly up to 6.6 feet. Humans have a remarkable ability to be able to accurately predict when disasters may take place, but then do absolutely nothing about it until they can actively see the change in front of them. Climate change is not an issue that we can do this with, or the results will be catastrophic and likely irreversible. So with that, for reasons that should be obvious, climate change will become part of our Halloween decorations for this year and will likely remain an integral part of it for every subsequent year until we do something about it. Third on our list will be something that a huge number of people were very openly scared of less than a month ago, that being now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. This is one of the biggest and most damaging decisions to be made within the United States government this year, and yet less than a month later, nearly all of the vocal fear and opposition of this disgusting process and result have faded away. However, we absolutely must not forget the implications of Brett Kavanaugh's appointment. This is an aggressively partisan man who has shown that he has no problem at all injecting his own political opinion into his Supreme Court rulings, which will serve as precedent for decades to come. We cannot forget about this egregious injustice in the years to come, and we should all remain very, very scared of what consequences will be wrought as a result of this appointment. So it is for this and many more reasons that we will add Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh to our Halloween decorations this year. Next is something that's been in the news a lot lately, largely due to the Kavanaugh hearings and appointment, that being the potential overturning of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court ruling from 1973. With Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh now having been appointed and confirmed by the Trump administration, there is a very real possibility that the court could rule down party lines to overturn this important case, thus stripping away many federal protections in regards to women's health as far as the availability of safe, legal abortions is concerned. This potential overturning of Roe v. Wade would relinquish the ability to regulate abortions completely to the states. While this would not by itself outlaw abortions in the United States, there are a lot of laws already in place at a state level that would make huge strides towards such a state. 4 states, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Dakota, and South Dakota, already have what are known as trigger laws in place, which will automatically become state law at the event that Roe v. Wade is overturned. All 4 of these laws will classify both performing and prescribing an abortion as felonies. Alabama and West Virginia already have laws on the books that will likely begin to be enforced at the absence of Roe v. Wade, and Arkansas, Kansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Ohio, Louisiana, and North Dakota have state laws on the books expressing the state's intent to restrict abortion rights to the absolute maximum extent allowed by the Supreme Court. In total, according to the Guttmacher Institute, 29 of the 50 United States are hostile towards abortion rights based on laws that restrict them in some way. The fact that a man who is alleged to have sexually assaulted 4 different women may be the final nail in the coffin for many American women's right to choose what they do with their own bodies is completely disgusting and absolutely terrifying, and as such, the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade will join the rest of our 2018 Halloween decorations. Next is another thing that I think is definitely scary enough to be part of my decorations, and is particularly important to many members of the atheist and skeptic communities here on YouTube. That being the fact that even in 2018, so many people do not understand or do not want to know real verifiable facts. Evolution, climate change, even the shape of the goddamn Earth. Even in our highly advanced global society, we continue to have discussions and debates on non-issues that are settled science and have been for decades, if not centuries, all because people are simply unwilling to accept the fact that some things are objectively true, whether they want to believe them or not. In a country where people like Ken Ham attempt to forcefully indoctrinate whole new generations of Americans with unsubstantiated ignorance, and the President of the United States openly mocks climate change on social media because he doesn't so much as grasp the difference between climate and weather, is it any wonder that more and more young people are starting to doubt the three-dimensional nature of their own planet? With that, willful ignorance will absolutely be joining our decorations. The next decoration we'll be putting up is the fact that this year, likely more so than any other year in the history of our country, the United States is responsible for essentially kidnapping and then subsequently losing dozens of children that have been brought into the country by adults entering illegally. Many people have many different views regarding border security and whether or not we should guard our borders more strictly, but I don't think there's any decent human beings in this country or in this world who honestly believe that the best course of action regarding these children is to haphazardly and irresponsibly remove them from their parents, likely never to be reunited. This is an absolutely egregious breach of human rights and will no doubt emotionally scar many children for the rest of their lives, and yet a large percentage of the population of the United States doesn't really seem that concerned about it. The lack of empathy that is displayed by parents who see this sort of atrocity and decide that it doesn't matter because it isn't their kid is terrifying, especially in the massive numbers that it's been clearly occurring in. For all these reasons, the kidnapping of innocent children by the United States is absolutely joining our decorations. Gun violence continues as an ongoing problem in the United States this year. In 2018 alone, there have been 554 children ages 0 to 11 and 2,343 teenagers ages 12 to 17 who have been injured or killed so far with firearms. As of me writing this script, there have been 297 mass shootings so far in 2018 alone. That is, as of the time I'm writing this script, only 5 less mass shootings in the United States alone than there have been days in 2018 so far. You would think that that would be enough of a kick in the ass for people to do something about it, but sadly that isn't the case, and as such, gun violence will join our other decorations this year, and likely every other year going forward until our country stops valuing their own right to own firearms more than they value innocent human life. I could certainly go on, and that alone could potentially warrant its own fear. However, I feel as if I've likely gotten my message across adequately by now. This Halloween, and moving into the holiday season, we absolutely must not forget any of the atrocities that have occurred over the past year. When we forget these things, we let down all of those affected by them, ourselves included. And every time we forget a horrific thing and let it go unopposed, we do nothing but send a message to those in places of power that they can continue to get away with things like this, and the more problems they are free to create or ignore. Thank you all very much for sticking with me over this past 9 months on this channel. I'll be taking a bit more of a break from uploading here going forward to focus on school, but hopefully sooner rather than later I'll be able to get back to making regular content for all you guys. But until that time, remain vigilant, don't sit silent at holidays and let bad ideas be the only ones heard, and as always, have a blessed day, fellow heathens.